The space station Fort Vanguard floated silently above Earth, a shining ring of silver against the endless dark. It was the pride of humanity, the command heart of the Human Defense Armada. From its wide observation deck, one could see Earth below, glowing blue and green, peaceful and unaware of the message that was about to change everything. Commander Elena Ross stood with her hands behind her back, gazing at the planet through the glass wall. She was tall, calm, and known across the fleet for her patience. Around her, the soft hum of machines and the quiet chatter of officers filled the air. Everything was normal, until the main communication console started blinking red. Lieutenant Vance, a young officer with sharp eyes, looked up from his station. "Commander," he said quickly, "we're getting a signal." "Not from any human source," Ross turned. "Show me." The lights dimmed as a projection appeared in the air. It was a message, a holographic seal with strange symbols that shimmered like liquid metal. The computer tried to translate, decoding words that made everyone in the room freeze. A deep, cold voice filled the command deck. It was not human. To the species called humanity, "This is the voice of the Empire of Carthon. You have expanded into territories under Imperial rule. You will surrender your fleets and orbital stations to our control within 10 cycles. Resistance is useless. Obedience will be rewarded. Refusal will bring consequences." The message ended. The room fell completely silent. For a moment, no one moved. Then the quiet was broken by a soft laugh. It came from Commander Ross. Everyone turned to look at her in surprise. She smiled, a small, calm smile. "Well," she said, "it looks like we've finally been noticed." Lieutenant Vance blinked. "Ma'am, this could be real. Should we treat it as a threat?" Ross nodded thoughtfully. "A threat, yes, but an interesting one." She looked out the window again at Earth below. "Send the message to Fleet Command on Luna Base. Tell them we've just received an invitation from an empire that doesn't exist in our maps." Vance hesitated. "And what do we tell the civilians?" Ross turned to him with a soft grin. "Nothing yet. Let's not worry people before we even know who we're dealing with. For now, we listen." Luna Base. 3 hours later, Admiral Raj Patel stood at the center of the Lunar Command Hall, watching the hologram of the alien message replay on the large screen. Around him were generals, scientists, and diplomats from across Earth's colonies. When the message ended, there was a long silence. Then Raj finally said, "So some empire far away thinks we're trespassing." Dr. Hannah Morales, the xenolinguist, leaned forward, adjusting her glasses. Their tone is formal, old-fashioned. They sound like they've ruled for centuries and expect everyone to obey. Raj chuckled softly. "And they expect us to bow." "That's cute," another officer frowned. "Sir, what if they're powerful?" "We don't even know what kind of ships they have," Raj nodded. "True. But if they were truly powerful, they wouldn't need to warn us. They'd just show up." The AI advisor, Nexus 7, spoke with a calm, smooth voice. "Statistical analysis suggests their message is an intimidation attempt. Human culture has a unique response to intimidation: humor." The room turned toward the AI, then toward Raj, who smiled. "Exactly what I was thinking." He crossed his arms and looked at the others. "We're not sending back fear. We're sending back confidence. Let's show them what humans do when someone tries to act like our boss." He dictated the reply himself. "To the Empire of Carthon, Earth appreciates your concern. Please take a number. The line for galactic conquerors is long this century." When he finished, half the room laughed. Even Nexus 7 emitted a faint digital chuckle. Raj grinned. "Let's see how they like a taste of human humor." Across the stars, the Carthon command vessel far from Earth, in a giant crystal chamber glowing with blue energy, the Carthon Emperor watched the human message replay in silence. Laughter. That was what he heard. The sound of humans laughing after receiving his warning. To him it was madness. To his advisors it was insult. "They laugh at your command, my Emperor," said General Vurak. "They think you are a joke." The Emperor raised a single silver hand. Silence. His voice was calm but heavy. "They are young. Their minds are simple. They laugh because they do not understand power. Let them. We will visit their world soon, and they will learn." He looked at the hologram again, the image of Earth floating like a pearl among the stars. "They call themselves humans," the Emperor said slowly. "We will see what that word truly means. Earth orbit, Fort Vanguard back on the station, the crew worked around the clock. Sensors were active, scanning the outer system for any strange movement. The first alien signal had been strange enough. No one wanted a second one without warning. Lieutenant Vance joined Commander Ross near the viewing platform. "No new signals, ma'am, but we've detected small energy trails near the asteroid belt. Possibly probes," Ross nodded. "Let them watch. The more they see, the more they underestimate us." Vance raised a brow. "You think we should let them spy?" Ross smiled slightly. "Of course. History has a lesson, Lieutenant. Humans win best when underestimated. Let them think we're just curious creatures playing with ships. When the time comes, they'll learn who we are." Vance grinned. "That sounds like a plan only humans would make." "Exactly," Ross said with a quiet laugh. "We don't fight for pride or power. We fight because we love what we've built. That makes us unpredictable." A message to Earth later that night. Ross recorded a message that was broadcast to every colony, ship, and city. Her voice was calm and steady, the kind that gave people courage. "This is Commander Elena Ross of the Human Defense Armada. We have received a message from a distant civilization calling itself the Empire of Carthon. They believe they can scare us into surrender. But let me remind every citizen, humanity has never been known for surrender. We have crossed oceans, survived storms, and walked on worlds no one thought possible. So if you hear rumors of invasion or fear, remember one thing. Humanity does not bow. We laugh, we adapt, and we endure." Her message was replayed across all stations. People who heard it smiled. Some laughed softly. It wasn't a laugh of mockery, it was confidence. The same kind of laughter that came from people who refused to be afraid. Meanwhile, the outer system far beyond Neptune, a small Carthon probe drifted quietly among the cold rocks of space. Its sensors scanned and recorded every human transmission it could find. To the probe's surprise, human fleets were not silent. Instead of fear, they were filled with music. It heard symphonies, rock songs, old jazz tunes, and even snippets of human laughter. The probe's analysis concluded, "Species exhibits high confidence and illogical optimism. Risk factor, unpredictable." It transmitted the data back to the Empire. Back on the station. The next morning, Ross stood on the deck again, watching Earth rise from behind the curve of the planet. The sunlight touched her face through the glass. Vance walked up beside her holding a tablet. "Ma'am, do you really think they'll come?" he asked. Ross smiled softly. "Probably. Empires always do," he hesitated. "And when they do, what's our plan?" She looked at him, eyes bright with quiet pride. "We'll do what humans always do when someone threatens our home." Vance tilted his head. "And what's that?" Ross chuckled. "We laugh, and then we surprise them." The two of them stood there in silence, looking out into the dark where unknown stars shone like distant eyes. The Empire of Carthon might have thought they were facing a small, simple species, but soon they would learn that humanity's greatest weapon was not strength or technology, it was spirit. And somewhere, in that silent void between stars, the first faint ripple of something much bigger was beginning. Not a war, but a meeting between pride and courage. The quiet of space was deep and endless, yet something new moved at its edge. A shimmer in the dark, a pulse of energy, unlike anything humanity had seen before. On board Fort Vanguard, Commander Elena Ross stood on the observation deck, watching as her scanners picked up strange signals from beyond Neptune's orbit. Lieutenant Vance read from his console, his voice calm but careful. "Unknown signatures detected, ma'am. Size and energy output match. Large vessels." "Very large." Ross crossed her arms. "Our guests finally decided to show up. Should we alert Luna Command?" Vance asked. "Already done," Ross replied. Her eyes stayed on the stars where faint lines of light were slowly appearing. "Let's welcome them the human way, politely but with a smile." The first sight far out beyond Pluto, 3 glowing shapes broke into normal space. They were enormous, each ship hundreds of kilometers long, their surfaces made of smooth silver plates that reflected distant sunlight. The Carthon Empire had arrived. Inside the lead vessel, the Emperor's envoy, High Minister Thal Ren, stood before a wide crystal screen showing the solar system. Around him, alien officers moved gracefully, their silver robes whispering as they worked. "Such a small system," Thal Ren said softly, "and yet they laugh at the Empire." An aide responded, Their transmissions continue, Minister. Music, laughter, messages of encouragement to their people. They are not preparing for surrender. Thalren frowned. Then they are more foolish than I thought. Send a message to their leaders. I want them to hear the voice of the Empire in person. Back on Earth, at Luna Command, Admiral Raj Patel and his team watched as the alien fleet entered the outer system. A wave of static ran through the communication channels. And then, a deep metallic voice filled the speakers once again. Humans, the Empire of Carthon has arrived. Your time to surrender has ended. Prepare to receive our inspection vessels. Raj smiled faintly. Inspection vessels? That's one way to say hello. Dr. Hannah Morales chuckled softly. They still sound confident. Raj looked at the screen where 3 glowing shapes slowly approached the inner planets. Good. Confidence makes people predictable. He turned to his communication officer. Send this reply. To the Empire of Carthon, Earth acknowledges your arrival. Please enjoy your stay. Tea will be served on Tuesdays. The entire control room laughed. Even the AI Nexus 7 spoke up. Admiral, your humor may cause confusion. Raj grinned. That's the point, Nexus. Let them try to understand humans. The meeting in Orbit 3 days later, one of the Carthon vessels stopped near Jupiter. The humans sent a diplomatic ship, the Horizon's Dawn, to meet them. Commander Ross was aboard. She didn't wear any armor or weapon, just a clean navy blue uniform and a small silver pin with Earth symbol, a circle with a single star inside it. As the Horizon's Dawn approached the massive alien craft, the crew could hardly believe what they were seeing. The ship's hull was so large it covered half their view. Vance whispered, "They sure like to build things big." Ross smiled slightly. "Let them have size. We'll bring spirit." The docking bay opened, glowing with blue light. A voice came through the translator. "Welcome, humans. Step forward to speak with the representative of the Empire." Ross took a slow breath. "All right, everyone. Let's make history." Politely. Inside the Carthon ship, the docking ramp extended into a vast hall that looked like glass and light woven together. The air shimmered with soft energy, and the aliens were tall, graceful, with metallic skin and calm golden eyes. At the center stood High Minister Thalren, his robes glimmering like liquid metal. He bowed slightly. "Commander Ross of Earth, we meet at last. I am Thalren, voice of the Emperor." Ross returned a nod. "A pleasure to meet you, Minister. Welcome to our solar system." Thalren studied her carefully. "You are bold. Few species speak to the Empire so casually." Ross smiled faintly. "Humans tend to treat everyone the same, whether they're from next door or another galaxy." The alien's golden eyes flickered.
"You do not seem—"
"Afraid. Should I be?" Ross asked calmly. Thalren hesitated. "The Empire has ruled for 10,000 years. We bring order. You have built fleets, stations, and colonies without permission. That must end." Ross nodded thoughtfully. "I understand your concern, but humans have a habit of exploring. It's in our nature. We don't mean disrespect, and we just like to see what's beyond the horizon." The alien minister folded his arms. "Exploration is dangerous without authority." Ross tilted her head. "So is staying still." For a moment, silence hung between them. Then, to everyone's surprise, Ross smiled. "You know, Minister, where we come from, people who try to scare others usually end up being invited to dinner." Thalren blinked. "Dinner?" "Yes," Ross said cheerfully. "It's a human custom. You threaten us, we feed you. It's confusing, but it works." Even Vance had to bite back a laugh. The translator struggled to process the humor, and Thalren looked completely puzzled. "I see," he said slowly. "You are a curious species," Ross nodded. "We hear that a lot." Back on the Carthon ship, later after the human visitors left, Thalren stood before the Emperor's hologram, reporting what he had seen. "They do not act like any race we have met," he said. Their leader smiled the entire time. "When I spoke of the Empire's authority, she invited me to dinner." The Emperor frowned. "Dinner?" Thalren nodded helplessly. "Yes, my Emperor. I believe it involves food." For a long moment, the Emperor was silent. "These humans," he said at last. "They are either brave or foolish. Perhaps both," he waved a hand. "Continue observing them. I want to know everything, how they think, how they live, how they build." Thalren bowed. "At once, my Emperor. Human reactions on Earth, the meeting caused excitement everywhere. News networks played the recordings nonstop. People were fascinated, not afraid. Children in schools drew pictures of silver ships and brave humans shaking hands with aliens. Artists created songs about tea on Tuesday with the Empire. The phrase became a joke across all colonies. Commander Ross's calm attitude inspired millions. Even her simple smile during the meeting became a symbol of courage. At a press briefing, a reporter asked Admiral Raj, "Admiral, are we in danger?" Raj grinned. "Only if laughter becomes a weapon." Everyone laughed again, and that sound and human laughter echoed from Earth to Mars and beyond. A strange discovery. Meanwhile, deep in the asteroid belt, a group of human scientists picked up something strange. One of the alien probes had stopped moving. When they studied its signals, they realized it was listening to music, specifically old human jazz music that someone had broadcast from Mars Colony Radio. Dr. Hannah Morales smiled at the discovery. "Looks like even their machines are curious." Ross received the report later that day. "Music?" she repeated, amused. "Well, if they're listening, let's give them something worth hearing." She sent out a new broadcast. Not a warning, but a melody. A peaceful tune played on piano mixed with a message. "To our visitors and welcome. Humanity hopes we can understand each other. You bring history. We bring curiosity. Let's see where both meet." The broadcast spread through the solar system. Humans listened. And somewhere far away, the alien ships listened too. The Emperor reflects in his grand throne room surrounded by light and silence. The Emperor of Carthon replayed the human message. The gentle piano notes filled the chamber, soft, strange, and unlike anything he had ever heard. "What is this?" he asked quietly. "Music, my Emperor," an aide said. "A human expression." The Emperor listened in silence for a long time. Then he said, "It carries no fear, only calm. They do not see us as gods or monsters." Thalren's voice came over the communicator. "Then how shall we proceed, my Emperor?" The Emperor looked at the stars and spoke softly. "We will continue to observe, but I begin to wonder, who truly understands power, them or us?" Back on Fort Vanguard that evening, Commander Ross stood once again by the observation window watching Earth spin below. Lieutenant Vance joined her. "So, ma'am, how do you think it went?" Ross smiled. "Better than expected. They didn't vaporize us and they left with homework." Vance laughed. "Homework?" "Sure," she said. "Now they'll spend weeks trying to figure out why we kept smiling." He grinned. "You really think they'll come back?" "Oh, definitely," Ross said. "No empire likes being laughed at. But maybe, just maybe, they'll start wondering why we laugh." Outside, the stars shone quietly. Humanity stood small but unafraid. A new voice in the galaxy, one that chose curiosity over fear, humor over hostility. And somewhere across the void, the mighty empire of Carthon began to realize that humans were not like anyone else. They didn't kneel. They didn't rage. They simply smiled, and the galaxy would never forget that. In the endless silence of space, the mighty ships of the Carthon Empire drifted near Jupiter, watching the smaller human fleets move between moons and stations. The alien officers expected panic, fear, or at least a show of submission, but instead the humans continued their daily work as if nothing had happened. From the bridge of the Imperial flagship, High Minister Thalren stared at his screen, confused. "They laugh," he said quietly. "They send music, pictures, and strange messages. No weapons, no cries for mercy, only jokes." His assistant, a younger officer named Saren, tilted her head. "Maybe this is a psychological trick?" Thalren sighed. "Perhaps, but it feels too natural. They are not pretending." The Emperor's face appeared on the wide crystal display, calm and radiant. "Minister Thalren," the Emperor said, "I trust your inspection continues. What have you learned of this humanity?" Thalren bowed. "They are unpredictable, my Emperor. They laugh at threats. They sing songs when told to fear. Their commander smiles when confronted. It is most confusing." The Emperor rested his chin on one hand. "And their fleets?" "Numerous but disorganized," Thalren answered. "Yet they work together with unusual energy. Their machines are less advanced than ours, but their coordination is remarkable." The Emperor nodded slowly. "Strange. Strength without arrogance. Confidence without proof. Continue your study, Minister. I wish to understand them before we decide anything." Observation from afar on board the Fort Vanguard, Commander Elena Ross watched as data from human sensors filled the main screen. The alien ships had not moved closer in days. Instead, they remained still, observing. Lieutenant Vance walked over, carrying 2 cups of coffee. "They're watching us again, ma'am," he said. "They're not sending threats anymore, though. Just silent scans." Ross smiled, taking a sip of her coffee. "That means we've made them curious. Good. Curiosity is the first step away from hostility." Vance chuckled. "You make it sound like a school lesson." Ross turned to him with a grin. "Every encounter is a lesson, Lieutenant. Even this one." Inside the Carthon vessel, the alien scientists gathered in a circular hall filled with glowing data orbs. They played recordings of human transmissions, music, laughter, conversations, and messages from across Earth. One scientist pointed at a hologram showing people dancing in a park. "They move in groups for no purpose. This activity, dance, wastes energy." Another replied, "But they appear happy." "Happy?" the first scientist repeated. "What biological function does that serve?" Before anyone could answer, the screen switched to another clip, a classroom where children were learning about the stars. Their teacher said, "Someday, maybe you'll meet them out there. And when you do, smile first." The scientists watched quietly. Saren whispered, "They teach their young to smile at strangers." Thal Ren, who had joined the meeting, folded his hands. "They are a strange species. They meet threats with friendliness. Their greatest weapon seems to be optimism." Another scientist frowned. "Optimism does not stop fleets, Minister." Thal Ren looked thoughtful. "Perhaps not, but it stops fear. And fear is what most empires depend on." The scientists exchanged uneasy glances. None of them could deny that truth. Human communication. A few days later, a message arrived at the alien ship. Not a demand or warning, but a simple invitation. It read, "To our new neighbors, we are hosting a cross-cultural broadcast this weekend. Humans from all around the world will share art, stories, and jokes. You are welcome to listen. Admiral Raj Patel, Earth Fleet Command." When Thal Ren read the message, he couldn't believe it. "They invite us to laugh with them." Saren nodded. "Yes, Minister. They call it the Humanity Broadcast. It will transmit on multiple frequencies." Thal Ren hesitated. "Strange. We threaten them and they throw a festival, but curiosity won." When the broadcast began, the Carthon fleet tuned in. They heard laughter first, loud, joyful laughter that echoed through the void. Then came music, drums, guitars, violins, and voices singing in many languages. After that, short stories about hope, friendship, and courage filled the transmission. At first, the aliens were puzzled. Then one of them, an engineer named Cora, laughed softly. Thal Ren looked at her, startled. "Why do you laugh?" She smiled faintly. "I don't know. It feels right. Their sound patterns create warmth in the mind." Thal Ren stared at the glowing console. Humans had done what no empire had ever done. They made the Carthon fleet laugh. Meanwhile, on Earth, billions watched the same broadcast. The event became a celebration across cities and colonies. People sang under the stars, children waved flags, and space stations joined with their lights forming bright patterns visible from below. Commander Ross watched the broadcast from Fort Vanguard, feeling a deep sense of pride. "Do you think they're listening?" Vance asked beside her. "Oh, they're listening," Ross said confidently. "Even if they don't admit it," Vance nodded. "You think laughter can change them?" Ross smiled. "It already has." It made them pause. That's the first victory. The Emperor's study. The Emperor sat in his private chamber listening to the faint echoes of human songs. The melodies were unlike the disciplined harmonics of Carthon music, chaotic, unpredictable, yet strangely beautiful. An advisor entered quietly. "My Emperor, the fleet awaits your orders. Shall we continue the inspection or begin withdrawal?" The Emperor didn't answer immediately. He closed his eyes and listened to a human song, a soft piano piece titled Across the Stars. At last he said, "Do you hear it? It has emotion. They are not a fearful people. They are alive in a way our empire has forgotten." The advisor looked confused. "Alive, my Emperor?" "Yes," the Emperor said softly. "We have ruled for so long that we forgot what it means to be curious, to hope, to laugh. These humans, they remind me of our ancient selves, He stood, his tall form shimmering in the soft blue light. We came to teach them obedience. Instead, they are teaching us humility. Back on the flagship, Thalren received new orders. Continue peaceful observation. The Emperor wanted knowledge, not conquest. Still, Thalren felt uneasy. He walked to the observation window and stared at Earth, a small glowing world surrounded by its proud ships. Saren joined him. Do you think we will ever understand them? Thalren shook his head slowly. Perhaps not completely. They live by emotion, not logic. But maybe that is why they are strong. Strong, she repeated. Yes, he said. Strength that does not come from weapons but from heart. He remembered Commander Ross's calm smile, her fearless eyes. He couldn't forget how, in the face of an empire, she had joked about dinner. That moment stayed with him like a soft echo. Human preparations. Meanwhile, Admiral Raj Patel met with Commander Ross over a holographic call. I think we've confused them completely, Raj said, laughing. Ross smiled. Good. Confusion keeps them cautious. It gives us time to learn about them too. Raj nodded. True. Our scientists are studying their language and technology. But what amazes me most is how fast the public adapted. Fear turned into curiosity overnight. That's humanity for you, Ross replied. We fear for a moment, then we start building something new. Raj leaned back, thoughtful. You know, Commander, maybe laughter really is a strategy. Ross chuckled. It's worked so far. Carthon Reflections weeks passed. The Carthon fleet remained in the system, observing but not attacking. Their reports became stranger each day. One described humans as a race that thrives on unpredictability. Another said, their humor is their defense. It transforms tension into peace. Even the Emperor received a painting, a gift sent from Earth, showing two hands, one human and one alien, reaching toward each other. The Emperor placed it in his hall where all could see. He looked at it every day and thought about what power really meant. The human lesson on Fort Vanguard, Ross gave a short speech to her crew. The Carthon Empire came here expecting fear. Instead, we gave them friendship. They came with commands and we replied with jokes. Some say it's foolish, but I say it's human. We are explorers, dreamers, and thinkers. We don't always make sense, but that's what makes us powerful. Our laughter is not weakness. It's our way of saying we're still here. We're still trying. Her words spread through the fleet. People smiled, worked harder, and felt proud. The fear that once lingered in the air was gone, replaced by calm determination. The Emperor's decision at last. The Emperor called Thalren. My minister, he said softly, we will not claim this system. Humanity is not an enemy. They are a mirror. Let them grow. Thalren bowed deeply. As you wish, my Emperor. Before the signal ended, the Emperor added, tell them. They made us remember who we were. Closing scene as the Carthon ships began to drift away. People across the solar system watched the sky and cheered. Humanity had faced an empire, not with weapons, but with courage and humor. Commander Ross stood on the viewing deck beside Vance, watching the fading lights of the alien ships. Do you think they'll come back? Vance asked. Ross smiled. Maybe, but next time I hope they bring dessert. Vance laughed. You really think laughter changed them? Ross looked at Earth below, shining like a jewel. It didn't just change them, Lieutenant. It reminded them, and us, that even in the coldness of space, kindness still matters. And in that quiet moment as the stars glimmered beyond the glass, humanity's laughter echoed once more, soft, endless, and full of hope. The solar system was alive with a new kind of energy, not the hum of engines or the glow of weapons, but the quiet excitement of curiosity. For the first time, humanity and an alien empire were learning about each other without anger or fear. On Fort Vanguard, Commander Elena Ross walked along the observation deck, her boots echoing softly. Beside her, Lieutenant Vance carried a datapad overflowing with reports from the alien fleet. They've been studying everything, Vance said. Our music, our broadcasts, even our old stories. They're fascinated, Ross nodded. Curiosity is a good sign. It means they're thinking, not reacting. That's the beginning of understanding. Vance tilted his head. Do you think they'll actually talk to us for real, I mean? Ross smiled faintly. They already have, Lieutenant. In their own way. Observation is communication too. The first cultural exchange high above Earth, the human fleet organized a new initiative, the Cultural Exchange Project. Holograms of artwork, music, literature, and architecture were prepared. Scientists, artists, and engineers contributed, eager to share human creativity with the mysterious visitors. Commander Ross oversaw the first transmission. "This isn't just a message," she explained to her crew. "It's an invitation. Not to surrender or fight, but to learn." Vance looked doubtful. "They might not understand it at all." Ross shook her head. "They will. All intelligent beings notice curiosity, and humans are curious by nature." Across the void, the Carthon fleet received the transmission. High Minister Thal Ren watched carefully as human music began to play, soft melodies interwoven with images of children painting, engineers building, and families sharing meals under the sun. "They celebrate small things," Thalren whispered. "Even ordinary life seems meaningful to them." An alien scientist, Cora, nodded. "It is inspiring. I did not expect so much." "Joy?" Thalren frowned thoughtfully. "They are not warriors as we imagined. They find wonder in every corner. Perhaps this is why they are strong. Their spirit does not rely on fear, the first personal contact. The aliens requested a small delegation from Earth to visit their flagship, not for confrontation, but for observation. Commander Ross led a team of scientists, artists, and engineers. They brought gifts not of weapons but of knowledge, books of mathematics, recordings of music, models of space stations, and examples of human artwork. When they arrived, the aliens looked at the gifts with curiosity. High Minister Thal Ren held a model of the International Space Station and rotated it slowly in his hands. "This structure," he said, "was built with such care and precision." "Without the use of force?" Ross nodded. "Yes. Cooperation, planning, and patience were all we needed." A young Carthon engineer, Cora, leaned closer. "And it floats in space, maintained by humans?" Ross smiled. "Exactly. We explore, we learn, we build. That's how we survive and thrive." Thalren's golden eyes softened. "Humans. They teach without words and build without weapons. Fascinating." Shared stories later, humans and Carthon gathered in a hall that glimmered with holographic light. They shared stories. Humans spoke of adventures across oceans, space, and time. Carthon told of empires, discoveries, and ancient traditions. At first, there were misunderstandings. Humans laughed at Carthon tales of strict rules and ceremonies. The aliens frowned at the human habit of improvisation. Then something remarkable happened. Humans and Carthon began to laugh together. Not mockingly, but genuinely. They found joy in differences, and curiosity replaced suspicion. Ross observed quietly. "This is more than diplomacy," she said to Vance. "This is friendship in the making." Vance nodded. "I never thought an empire would learn from us instead of conquering us." Ross smiled faintly. "Humans have always taught without knowing it. That's our secret strength." A lesson in music, the exchange continued with music. Humans played instruments, sang songs, and even taught Carthon delegates to hum and tap rhythms. At first, the aliens were hesitant, their metallic voices stiff. But under Ross's guidance, they began to imitate, first slowly, then with confidence. The Carthon halls filled with unfamiliar melodies. Laughter and applause followed. Thalren watched, fascinated. "They do not simply play notes," he observed. "They communicate feelings. Joy, curiosity, wonder, all in sound." Cora added, "It is enlightening. We can feel emotion in the vibration. Perhaps this is why humans are resilient." Ross nodded. "Music is universal. It connects beings even across worlds." For the first time, the alien fleet didn't feel like invaders. They felt like students in a grand, living classroom. The science of curiosity. The exchange also included science. Humans explained their experiments, their exploration of planets, and the development of space technology. The Carthon delegates listened attentively, asking questions and making comparisons to their own methods. One Carthon engineer, studying a human energy generator, remarked, "Your approach is iterative. You learn from mistakes instead of hiding them." "That is unusual," Ross replied. "Yes, mistakes teach faster than success. Humans embrace them," Thalren observed silently. "Perhaps this is why they advance differently than empires built on command. They evolve through curiosity and cooperation, not fear or dominance." Even the Emperor, observing remotely, began to consider a different kind of strength. one not defined by conquest, but by wisdom, humor, and creativity, learning from each other. Weeks passed. Humans and Carthon started simple exchanges: mathematics, art, architecture, and philosophy. Children from Earth sent drawings to the alien delegation. One showed a rocket reaching toward stars with humans and aliens holding hands. Thalrin studied it quietly, then smiled. It was the first genuine smile he had shown since the fleet arrived. On the human side, scientists built devices that allowed Carthon delegates to see Earth's oceans, forests, and cities. The aliens marveled at the colors, the movement of clouds, and the gentle sway of trees. Ross watched the interactions from Fort Vanguard. "They're learning to see the world as we see it," she said softly. "And we're learning about them too." Vance nodded. "I never thought we could teach an empire how to laugh." "And they'd listen," Ross smiled. "Humans don't need permission to be curious. That's what makes us memorable. A symbol of trust to mark the growing friendship. Humans offered a gift. A small satellite shaped like a silver dove, filled with recordings of human songs, stories, and greetings. Thalrin accepted it with care. "We will keep this in our halls," he said. "It is beautiful." Ross replied, "It represents trust. We share knowledge freely because curiosity is stronger than fear." The Emperor, watching from afar, nodded slowly. "Perhaps there is more to power than I once believed. Understanding and connection may be stronger than fleets of ships." The human way back on Fort Vanguard, Ross gave a short speech to her crew. "Humans have always faced the unknown with courage and humor. We don't need to be the strongest to survive. We need to understand, adapt, and build together. Today we've done more than defend Earth. We've shared our spirit with a species that could have been an enemy, and in return they've shared theirs with us. That is the human way. Curiosity over fear, laughter over intimidation, cooperation over conflict." Her crew listened, inspired. They knew the galaxy had changed, not through weapons or wars, but through a simple human choice to teach, to learn, and to laugh. Closing scene: the Carthon fleet slowly began to leave the solar system, but not in hostility. They drifted with new awareness, carrying gifts, lessons, and memories of humanity's courage and humor. Thalrin looked at Earth one last time before departure. "They are unlike any species I have encountered. Their laughter, it carries strength. Perhaps the Empire has underestimated strength itself." Ross stood at the observation deck watching the departing ships. Vance beside her whispered, "Do you think they'll return?" Ross smiled, eyes reflecting Earth below. "Perhaps, but next time, I hope they bring questions, not commands." The stars shone quietly around them. Humanity had met an empire not with fear, but with curiosity, intelligence, and laughter. And for the first time, both species realized that true power was not in domination, but in understanding, learning, and connecting. In the quiet of the cosmos, humanity had given the galaxy a gift, a lesson that courage is measured not by weapons but by heart. The galaxy had changed, not in fire or destruction but in thought. Humanity had faced an empire not with weapons, but with laughter, curiosity, and intelligence, and the universe had noticed. On Fort Vanguard, Commander Elena Ross walked along the observation deck, watching Earth slowly spin below. The solar system felt alive in a new way. Signals, messages, and data from across human colonies reflected the spirit of optimism and learning that now stretched to the stars. Lieutenant Vance joined her, carrying a small data pad. "Ma'am, the Carthon fleet is reporting back to the Emperor. They've called it a reevaluation of power." Ross smiled faintly. "That's a diplomatic way of saying we made them rethink everything." Vance grinned. "And all we did was be human?" Ross laughed softly. "Exactly. We smiled, we taught, we shared, and they learned that courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes it laughs." A new message from the Empire. The Emperor of Carthon sent a personal message to Earth. The transmission reached Luna Command with such clarity that everyone paused before replying. "Humans of Earth, the Empire has observed your species closely. We have come to understand that strength is not only in fleets or power, but in curiosity, cooperation, and courage. Your laughter is not weakness, it is a force that shapes the mind. We will leave your system in peace with respect." Emperor Calith, Carthon Empire. Across Earth, people cheered. In schools, children danced in celebration. Scientists shared stories of the unusual fleet. Artists painted murals inspired by the encounter. Humanity had been acknowledged by an empire, not for surrender, not for war, but for intelligence, humor, and spirit. Admiral Raj Patel watched the message with a soft smile. "It seems our little joke about tea on Tuesdays worked," he said. Ross laughed. "Sometimes diplomacy doesn't need orders. Sometimes it just needs humans being human." The Empire learns from humans weeks past, and the Carthon Empire began to implement changes inspired by what they had learned from humans. Scientists experimented with art, engineers explored improvisation in construction, and diplomats began to consider humor and curiosity in their negotiations. Thalren wrote in his personal log, "Humans are not predictable. They thrive in chaos, yet their chaos has order. They value creativity, community, and laughter. Perhaps this is why they survive where others would falter. I have observed empires built on fear and control. They are efficient, yes, but lifeless. Humans, though less disciplined, are alive in a way we cannot yet replicate. Their spirit endures, and that is a power beyond our measurement." Cora, the young engineer, often repeated, "I never thought curiosity could be a weapon." But they wield it everywhere, in music, in work, in laughter. And it never harms, only teaches. Earth's growing reputation on Earth, humanity's reputation spread through the galaxy. Traders, explorers, and diplomats from other systems approached with interest, not fear. Admiral Raj spoke at a council meeting with leaders from Earth, Mars, and the outer colonies. "We faced an empire and did not fire a single weapon. We shared knowledge, music, and humor. That act has secured humanity a place among the stars, not as conquerors, but as teachers, thinkers, and friends. Let that be the standard for our expansion. Curiosity, cooperation, and laughter first. Everything else second." The colonies erupted in applause. It was a new era. Humanity was no longer just a species on a small blue planet. It was a symbol of hope, ingenuity, and courage. The children of the stars across human colonies, children studied the stars with new inspiration. They learned about the Carthon Empire not as monsters, but as fellow beings capable of growth and understanding. Stories of Commander Ross smiling before an entire empire became bedtime tales. Schools built models of alien ships alongside Earth vessels. Children played games imagining diplomacy, discovery, and cultural exchanges instead of wars. In the halls of learning, a teacher explained to her students, "Humans teach the galaxy a simple truth. Strength is not in fear. It is in courage, kindness, and creativity. Remember that, and you can face any challenge." The Galactic Festival inspired by the encounter, Earth organized the first Galactic Cultural Festival. Species from nearby star systems were invited to participate. Humans and aliens shared art, music, and stories. Commander Ross led the delegation. The festival was filled with laughter, new ideas, and curiosity. Humans demonstrated simple machines and scientific experiments. Carthon engineers shared their elegant technology. Artists from multiple worlds collaborated to create songs and murals celebrating knowledge. Thalren watched the festival, smiling. "I once thought the Empire's rule was supreme. Now I see that the universe thrives when curiosity guides the way, not power." Cora beside him nodded. "And humans, they are the best teachers of curiosity I have ever seen." The power of diplomacy back on Earth. Admiral Raj reflected on the lessons of the encounter. He addressed the Earth fleet. "We have learned that the galaxy respects those who share knowledge and trust. We have met an empire and taught them not by force but by example. This is the true human way. Diplomacy through courage, humor, and learning." Commander Ross added, "And let us remember, laughter is a bridge. Curiosity is a tool. Together they are stronger than any fleet, any weapon, any command." The fleet listened, inspired. Humanity had learned that being human was not a weakness but the greatest strength in the galaxy. The lasting friendship months passed. The Carthon Empire maintained communication, not as overlords but as partners. Exchanges of knowledge continued. Humans taught improvisation, art, and music. Carthon shared engineering, philosophy, and observation techniques. Thalren reflected privately. "We came expecting submission. Instead, we received wisdom. Humans have reminded us that life thrives not by dominance but by curiosity and courage. Perhaps we too can become better because of them." Even the Emperor, observing remotely, sent a personal message to Commander Ross. Humanity has shown us a path we had long forgotten. We are grateful for your courage, humor, and wisdom. May our species continue to learn from each other across the stars. Ross smiled as the message arrived on Fort Vanguard. We didn't just survive. We taught the galaxy the value of being human. Vance leaned over. Do you think other empires will come? Ross laughed softly. Maybe. But next time we'll welcome them with the same tools. Curiosity, courage, and laughter. A bright future. The solar system thrived in a new era. Humanity became known not just for its resilience, but for its spirit. Scientists collaborated across species. Artists created works that blended cultures and ideas. Diplomats learned from humans' laughter, patience, and optimism. Even distant empires began sending observers, hoping to understand the species that had faced the Carthon Empire and made them rethink everything, without a single battle. On Fort Vanguard, Ross looked at Earth below. Children played in parks, satellites glimmered in orbit, and space stations reflected the sun in perfect harmony. She turned to Vance and said quietly, "The galaxy is bigger now, and we are ready." Vance smiled. "It feels endless," Ross nodded. "It is endless. And every corner is an opportunity to explore, to learn, and to laugh." Outside the observation window, the stars sparkled, endless and inviting. Humanity had met an empire, faced the unknown, and shown the galaxy what it meant to be human. Brave, curious, and unafraid to smile, and in that laughter, a new era began, one where cooperation, knowledge, and heart became the true power of the stars.